And actually, that was what happened to us when we were in Prestatyn and we were trying to find accommodation. Basically, nobody would let us camp because we were in our 20s and they were too afraid we were going to have parties and wreck the joint. So a lot of these things came from our own personal experiences. These videos were posted up on Facebook, like I said, and they actually brought people into the live experience weeks before the actual production was happening. And people were being brought into this quest and being asked to come along on this journey with us. We also posted it up on the National Theatre Wales community, and also we invited people on there to take part in other games that we had, and we put out secret clues and quests and asked people to join in. So I'll just quickly talk through what actually happened after all of this. After you've had 2 weeks of video diaries, the audience come down to the beach and they meet Charlie and TJ, who ask them to come and join in this quest to bring back the missing generation to Prestatyn. They've built these billboards, all of which feature an empty space in Prestatyn that needs thinking, renovating, to fill with things that can bring back the missing generation to Prestatyn. Each one, like I said, featured an empty spot. It featured things that could appeal to the younger generation, and also reference things that we'd found out from our stories, from getting to know the local community. You might recognise Gladys from Heidi High. That's in reference to the huge pontins that was nearby. And also, I think there was a link with Ruth Maddock in the area as well. After they met Charlie and TJ on the beach and they were riled up about, oh, this missing generation, we need to get them back, they were brought into a parachute where they all played Hometown Mexican Wave and everybody shouted out their hometown and where they were from, and that was when the discussion also started about, oh, okay, you're from down there near me, or where are you from originally? And people got going, shouting them out, being built up, right, we're going to go and bring back the missing generation. And that was when they met the curtain twitchers. So, the curtain twitchers are the reason why there is no missing generation in Prestatyn. They have chased the missing generation away. And they have stolen the elements, they've stolen the things that will make the billboards complete to bring back the missing generation, because they've also got a point to make as well. The evil curtain twitchers were played by local community members. Our youngest was about 14, and our oldest was a lady in her 80s. And all of these people were instrumental in making the beach, in giving us the stories that made the core of the narrative happen. And they also committed a lot of time and a lot of energy to making these characters happen. And it was really important to us that these people were local people and that they were going to give it that heart and that authenticity that the show really needed to work and to appeal to that local audience. Each of the tasks that the audience were asked to participate in, there were 6 games. The audience were divided up into 6 teams and they had to compete against each other to win back their elements, to come back to their billboards and make something to bring back the missing generation. All of the stories that were surrounded by the games came from the local environment. They were inspired by real people and events. That was really important to us because it gave it an integrity. This one is actually based on the issue of language. We found a lot of stories because obviously Prestatyn is a border town as well. And this came from a lot of stories we found from people, young people and older people, about their struggle with being bilingual or wanting to speak Welsh and feeling like they were unable to. We also had a game which was based on an inventor, a scientist who'd lived up on the hill and had been given a piece of radioactive material by Marie Curie, and he died. So all of our games, everything came from the local community. All of it came from the stories of people that we met while we were researching and making the show. And it was really exciting because the show ended up, it did sell out, and the really exciting thing was that although all of the teams were full, we ended up with people on the periphery watching as well and coming down and looking and giving advice and helping everybody out. So actually the number of people who saw and engaged in the show went beyond the number of people who actually played it. Those are all our lovely curtain twitchers. In the end, they were the ones who decided which idea would win to bring back the missing generation. So it was about bringing all of those sides together. And the way that these people got involved through this production, as well as me and the team going out and meeting people and hanging out on the pub and going into the Scala Art Centre, was through our initiative, which is called Team, which I'm sure John talked to you about yesterday. We don't have an outreach department as such at National Theatre Wales, but we try and involve the community in every single aspect of our work. All of these people who are part of Team, this is our team flyer, but it's nice because it actually shows another game that was in the beach as well. It's a water game. Everybody that was a curtain twitcher is still involved in National Theatre Wales. They're involved in all aspects of our decision making, and they're able to input into those things. And actually me and Davinder, our team coordinator, are going up to Prestatyn next week to connect with them and see how they're going, and also evaluate their past year being in team. I just want to show you this video as well. Carl Morris made a series of videos called 1 Minute With, and he took a flip cam, which was the same thing the other video was made of, and he attacked somebody. This is Gary, he was our set designer on the beach, and he would stop them and say, right, you've got 1 minute, tell me about what you've been doing in the show. So if we can just play that video quick.
Hi there, we're here for a chat with Gary, and Gary, why don't you tell us what you do and what you've done on the beach project?
Well, I was designer on the beach project, and Gladys and I have had a great time. This is Prestatyn Market, which is where I sourced some of the props for the project. It's also got a great carpet sale on Thursdays.
Good stuff, yeah, that's cool. And how about, tell us about like the process of coming from a blank page to what we've got here.
It was long.
Yeah?
Yeah. There's been a lot of fun times along the way. We're going to build sandcastles, but the sea comes in too fast, unfortunately, around these parts. So we've now got billboards, which are great. There's great potential in Prestatyn for stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's what we're trying to discover in the project.
Yeah. Thanks for your time, Gary.
Is that it? Did I do a whole minute? Amazing.
Brilliant. I wanted to and actually you just need 1 minute to just stop someone and say, what are you doing? And it doesn't give away too much. It actually intrigues people for what's going on. It makes people also, I think, appreciate sometimes the things that you don't see that happen backstage that actually makes these productions happen. So you've got those two elements. You've got the backstage, you've got what might be the promotion of the show, you've also got a greater engagement with your audience, with the process of making theatre, and then you've also got that other sort of, I guess, more fictional side of the narrative happening. And we were able to keep those two things happening simultaneously. And so I don't think it's true that if you show something online, oh no, it's all going to go wrong and it's a scary thing. It doesn't have to be. You can just get your mobile phone and shoot it like that. And just to finish off, this was a photograph that was taken by TJ. He would end the production by deciding that he was going to do what had been achieved in Prestatyn. He was going to go back to Merthyr and make a difference there to his hometown. And he takes a photograph of the end, including the curtain twitchers, before heading off. And this photograph was put on the community. It was also, I think, put on Facebook so that people could actually tag themselves in it. So it was acknowledgement of beach family fun and encouraging people to actually be part of this production on another level. I would just want to point out there's a couple between two green curtain twitchers. If you can see the two green ones on the left. That couple actually came along on their honeymoon. They'd been walking along and we were running open rehearsals on the beach in the daytime, and they saw what we were doing. I think John handed them a flyer and they went, oh, this is brilliant, this is good, and they came back. And I think that's really interesting because the way that we were able to rehearse on the beach, we would find groups of teenagers and say, oh, do you want to see a play? And we'd perform to them and get their feedback. The fact that people were able to just come along and stop and watch, and that people were coming who had never engaged in a piece of theatre, or people who had never engaged in this type of theatre and went, oh, well, if theatre's like this, then I'll go and see more. This was the kind of response that we were getting. And the last thing I want to say really is that all of this stuff, the fact that the beach was looking at different ways of engaging audiences, different ways of trying to bring audiences on a journey, because the audiences were the participants, they were the performers, was really important in establishing an accessibility and an openness with the production. It added all of these conversations that people had about why they'd left their hometowns. People were going away talking about those things that we wanted them to reflect on, and actually created some really lovely relationships. It reinforced the fact that the community also were core to the production of this work as well. They felt like they really owned it because we literally couldn't have done it without them. It was a production that they made. as well as being about them, it really was with them. And the really interesting thing that surprised us all was that we ended up being in the top 10 things to do in Grazia magazine, which again is a whole other audience that I think we hadn't anticipated that we would attract. So, you know, there's obviously a scope again for women's glossy lifestyle magazines. And I think the thing that I always like to say is that I'm not the most technical person at all, and